The last time I spoke to my ex-boyfriend, he was standing in the rain outside my apartment, and when I asked why he came, he just said, "I didn't want you to forget I tried." I closed the door anyway, and I still wonder if he was the only one who did. Minneapolis doesn't get much sympathy. It's not romantic like New York or warm like LA. It's just cold. Cold in the way that gets into your joints and stays there. Cold in the way people look at you when they're done pretending they care. I was living in a one-bedroom off Lyndale Avenue. Top floor, old place with thin walls and a noisy heater that always sounded like it was choking. Rent was cheap, which matched how I felt about everything back then. Cheap, rundown, and always one bad day from breaking. I was working long shifts at the ER. I saw everything. Overdoses. Shootings. Kids with broken arms and moms who flinched when their husbands called. It messes with you after a while. You start measuring time in charts and blood pressure readings. You forget to eat. You forget to sleep. You forget to care. Darren showed up on a night like that. Rain coming down sideways. My scrubs were damp and sticking to my back. I was exhausted, starving, and had a dull ache behind my eyes from staring at monitors too long. I got off the bus and there he was, standing across the street, right under the street lamp like something out of a movie. Except movies never smell like wet asphalt and cigarette smoke. I hadn't seen him in 6 months. Not since I found out the truth. He didn't move when I walked up. Just stared at me, his arms hanging limp by his sides like he didn't know what to do with them anymore. His voice cracked when he spoke. "I didn't want you to forget I tried." That's all he said. I looked at him. I mean, really looked. The guy I once thought I'd marry. The guy who used to trace circles on my back to help me fall asleep. The guy who, as it turns out, had been lying to me for almost 2 years. I didn't say a word. I turned around, unlocked the door, and walked in. Closed it behind me without a second glance. He stayed out there, I think. I didn't look through the window. I didn't care if he left or froze out there all night. At least, that's what I told myself. But the truth is more complicated. Because Darren wasn't the only one who betrayed me. And if I'm being honest, that night, that wasn't the start. That was just the final flicker before everything went dark. Let me take you back. To when I still thought love meant something. To when I thought trying was enough. To when I still had friends I trusted. To when I didn't know what revenge really looked like. It started 2 years earlier. Before the rain. Before the lies. Before I learned that everyone has a line they're willing to cross. Even me. 2 years earlier, I was still hopeful. Not happy, not exactly. But I had hope. Darren and I had just signed a lease to our first apartment together. A 2-bedroom in the Powderhorn neighborhood. It was old, with cracked tiles and an oven that ran too hot, but it had sunlight in the morning and a big window in the kitchen. We used to sit there and drink cheap coffee and talk about the kind of life we wanted. Darren was a graphic designer, freelance mostly. He worked from home, took calls in his boxers, and played guitar when he was stuck on a project. I worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital. It wasn't balanced, but I didn't mind. I was proud of him. Or maybe I was just proud that someone like him wanted to be with someone like me. The first red flag was small. Isn't that how it always starts? One night, I came home early and saw him on the phone, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in months. When he noticed me, he went quiet fast. Said it was a client. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then came the second flag. We were at his friend's party. A girl there, Alyssa, kept touching his arm, kept whispering in his ear, laughing at things he didn't even say. I asked him about it afterward. He got defensive. Said I was jealous. Said I was insecure. "You're exhausted all the time," he told me. "You come home smelling like puke and bleach and expect me to pretend that's not hard to live with." I didn't answer. I just went to the bedroom and cried. Quietly, like always. The third flag broke everything. I found her name on his phone. Not Alyssa, someone else. Mags. I didn't recognize it, but the messages were clear. Photos. Voice notes. A few "I miss you"s that punched a hole in my chest. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. "She understands me," he said, like that was supposed to make it better. I moved out 2 weeks later, took what I could fit in 2 suitcases, and slept on my coworker Shelley's couch for a month. I didn't tell anyone the full story, just said it didn't work out. People don't really want the truth anyway. But here's the thing. The betrayal didn't stop with him. Because a few weeks after I moved, Shelley started getting weird. Distant. Shifty. I thought it was stress. She worked the same floor I did. But then one night I came home and heard her in the kitchen on the phone. She said his name. She laughed the same way Alyssa did. I stood in the hallway for a full 10 minutes before I walked in. She tried to act normal, but the guilt was all over her face. I left that night, slept in my car outside the hospital, and I decided something. Trying was overrated. The next time someone betrayed me, I wouldn't cry. I'd make them regret it. After Shelley, I stopped letting people in. I found a cheap apartment, just one room, no dining area, barely any closet space, but it was mine. I worked extra shifts, volunteered for holidays, weekends, anything to keep my mind busy. People at the hospital thought I was tough, focused, rock solid. One of the residents called me. What they didn't know was I didn't go home to peace. I went home to silence, so loud it made my ears ring. Then something strange happened. I started getting calls from unknown numbers. At first, I ignored them. But then the voicemails started. They weren't threatening, not exactly. Just weird. Hey, just wondering if you ever think about what could have been. You still wear that blue jacket, the one with a ripped pocket? It wasn't all lies. You know that. Different voices. Male. One even sounded like Darren, but deeper. Slower. The others I couldn't place. I changed my number. Twice. They still kept coming. Then someone left a note under my windshield wiper. Just one sentence. He wasn't the only one keeping secrets. At first, I thought it was Darren. I almost went to his place to confront him. But something in my gut told me this wasn't about him. Not anymore. So, I started paying attention. I pulled old hospital records. Logged into an employee portal I hadn't used in months. Checked phone logs. Camera feeds. I even watched some old shift footage, which I shouldn't have had access to, but one of the night techs owed me a favor. That's when I saw it. Shelley. In the ER. With a guy I didn't recognize. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. Each time, they waited until I had stepped away. He never checked in. Never left a name. But I remembered that face. It was the same guy from Darren's old Instagram. A friend of his. I didn't know his name. But he had a neck tattoo, an old-fashioned clock with no hands. He was always around. At parties. At concerts. But I never paid him much attention. Now I couldn't stop thinking about him. Something was off. Something deeper than just cheating or backstabbing friends. I started digging harder. And that's when I found out about the apartment. A place in Northeast, under a fake name. The lease was in someone else's name, but the emergency contact was Darren. Paid in cash. Registered with an email that linked back to Shelley. I went there one night. I didn't go inside. I just watched. And what I saw made my skin crawl. Because it wasn't just Darren. It wasn't just Shelley. There were others. And they were all connected. To me. To my name. To things I never agreed to. Someone was using me. For months. Maybe longer. And whatever they were doing in that apartment. It was just the beginning. I knew I couldn't go to the cops. Not yet. I didn't have enough. Just hunches, and a feeling that something rotten had been growing right under my feet. I needed proof. And more than that, I needed to understand why. Why me? Why my life? Why would Darren, Shelley, and a bunch of others tie themselves together to screw me over? I started watching the apartment every chance I got. I parked across the street, stayed there for hours, just writing down plates, times, faces. I didn't recognize most of them, but I recognized patterns. Every Thursday night, a group of 3 guys would show up with backpacks. Every second Sunday, Shelley came alone, always just before dark. Once, I even saw Darren meet her outside. They argued. Loud. But then they went inside together anyway. I knew that kind of silence between people. The kind built on guilt. After a month of watching, I got my break. One night, a guy left the place in a rush. He dropped something getting into his car. A flash drive. I grabbed it when he drove off. I didn't even go home. I went straight to the hospital and plugged it into one of the break room computers. What I found made my blood run cold. They had files. On me. On others. Hundreds of files. Medical records, therapy notes, patient data, all stolen from hospital systems. They were selling them, making money off the trauma, pain, and private lives of the people I'd spent years trying to help. And my name was all over it. Fake logins. Fake emails. All traced back to me. They made it look like I was the one leaking everything. If I had reported it when I first got the note, I'd be in jail by now. They planned this. Slowly. Over time.
Darren.
Shelley. That tattooed guy. His name was Ethan, I found out later. And at least 5 more people, all part of this little ring. All people I had trusted. Helped. Even protected, at one point. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called Darren. I told him I wanted to meet. He hesitated. Asked why. I said, because I'm ready to forgive you. That was all it took.
We met at a bar downtown.
He looked nervous, but smug, like he thought he'd won. I let him talk. He lied straight to my face. I've missed you. It was never about you. She used me. I smiled. Ordered him another drink. Got him just drunk enough to start talking real. He said too much. I had a wire under my sweater. My cousin Matt, he works private security in Chicago. I called him 2 days before. Told him everything. He sent gear. Trained me over video chat. I got every word on tape. 3 days later, I sent the flash drive and the recordings to the FBI. Not the cops. Not hospital security. The damn feds. They arrested 5 people, including Shelley and Darren. The rest scattered. Ethan disappeared. Probably in Mexico by now. But his face is out there. And I have a feeling he won't stay gone forever. The hospital put me on leave at first, too messy. Too many questions. Then they offered me a settlement. Quiet money to make the scandal disappear. I didn't take it. I quit. I moved to Duluth. Open a little clinic for women who've been through hell and have no one left.
And I see them.
I see that same broken trust in their eyes. The same lost look I had when I realized even the people closest to me could gut me for money. I helped them. But sometimes late at night I think about Darren. That night in the rain. I didn't want you to forget I tried. Maybe he did try. But trying doesn't undo the damage. And I didn't forget. I just made sure no one else ever will, either.